Good morning, everyone. John471 here to discuss the S&P 500. Today is Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. Allow me to read our disclaimer. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Let's begin today, as we always do, with our news. As mentioned, today is Tuesday. Yesterday was Monday, a holiday in the US, so there was no regular trading hours. We already had Kashkari speaking at 4 a.m. right here. As we continue on to the day, at 8:30 we have durable goods. 9 a.m. we have the Case-Shiller home numbers. 9:30 we have Barkin speaking. And continuing on at 10 a.m. we have consumer confidence, which will be a significant figure. Dallas Fed at 10:30, which is pretty minor. A few short-term auctions out of the Treasury, and then at 8 p.m. tonight, John Williams speaks. So we have some data today that may be worthwhile. Let's move on to our charts. Okay, here we have our chart of the S&P 500, daily bars full session. Just kind of revisiting our narrative from this chart. This was the big area that was really a big deal for us, this March range. Then once we were able to push through, we were looking for a test of the 5821s at the top of this area. We got that test, pushed above it, and began a bit of a trend higher in an attempt, in my view, to recover this distribution of trade up here. With the 6,000 figure is a very important number. And I noted that we started to kind of round off and we saw a bit of a pullback here. And we pushed through the 5821s, tested below, but still kind of held this sort of island situation that we have here that's going on where this is just kind of our own trading range right here that we're holding in. And we're looking to see, are we going to be able to push higher and finally take out those 6,000s and get back into this distribution? Or do we fall lower to close this area, this unauctioned area? Let's go to a smaller time frame chart and discuss a bit more specifically. Okay, so this is a 30-minute chart of the S&Ps, RTH only. There are a couple things that I thought would be useful to discuss on this chart. First, we see that we have been one time framing lower on the daily during RTH. We see this kind of impulsive day where there was a bit of an attempt to hold up here and then a release lower, looking to find buyers. This area right here, we continued the following day, but this area appears to be an area where the buyers did try to step up. But then the next day, we just gapped lower and traded this whole range. What's kind of interesting about this is, even though we did close the gap here, just by one, I think we touched it to the tick, or about 1 point, we didn't really close off this whole unauctioned area between these two areas. We we traded to here. The next day we opened here and we pushed higher, but we've never retested this VPOC. This is still a naked VPOC right here. So this area, basically right around the VPOC of this day, below our developing overnight low and above the prior day's high, this Friday's high, is fairly unauctioned. And also above here, this area is clearly unauctioned. We have single prints and we have this area right here. Above here we have two naked VPOCs from these days. So basically what I'm saying is we're kind of in our own sort of like island right here. And once again, there's unauctioned areas above and unauctioned areas below. So that's good. We have clear targets. However, we may not, there's no guarantee of a directional move today. Let's go to a smaller time frame chart and plan for specific price action. Okay, here we are on a smaller time frame chart. Let's go over some ideas for the day. Just noting, as I don't think I did, but based on the Friday range, and yesterday was a holiday, this will be a gap open. We have been one time framing, as you can see right here, the one time framing. So this will be a gap open if provided we stay up there. But anyway, regardless, let's discuss bullish ideas first for no specific reason. But anyway, so based on the overnight action here, what we can see is we opened around here, we flushed lower and then pushed higher, and you see this distribution right here that appears to be where the first sort of offer was. Like we pushed up to here, we started to find some resistance. So for me, what we're seeing is price acceptance right here so far. And so the most bullish idea would be if this distribution just held. And how could that happen? Maybe we get some quick pullback attempt into the stem, but very quickly bought up if this is if buyers are just eager in this area. So what I'm saying is if this distribution just sort of can hold the trade and pullbacks are very quickly refuted, these single prints here would be the first key situation to see us trade through and get to the overnight high, which isn't really a big ask in this situation. But what I'd want to see is, if we get a pullback, that's great. If we might not, but regardless, pushing through these singles, I would want to see then any subsequent retest the overnight VPOC to be pretty firm. And so if we get a bullish move in this way, it could happen in one of two ways. We could, one, get a test and then impulse and very quickly hold above and just start to work higher towards targets above, which would be probably the best trade if you're able to get on board. Or we could see some situation where we maybe test, maybe don't, but just start a more sort of grindy trend higher, which is also a possibility. Either way, for me, if we get above these singles and hold, the key target situation will be here and here. These naked VPOCs left from the 20th and the 21st. This is clearly where sellers, in my opinion, these naked VPOCs are sellers with offers that were not filled at that time. Now, did they get filled in this sort of sell-off below? Possibly. So, but we don't know until we retest. So anyway, holding this distribution, pushing or quickly pushing lower, reverting back above the overnight high, and holding the overnight VPOC, I would be open to continued excursion higher with these two areas as the key test areas, the 48s and 60s, the mid-century area. This would be my key test region. Now, upon testing this area, do we have any more to go? It's possible. At this point, you'll notice we'll already be above 2 Vala up from Friday, so I'm not super ambitious about hardcore price discovery through these areas. And to be honest with you, even getting these two targets would be pretty good today because who knows what may happen on this Tuesday. But these are my key targets. Now, this is an area where we could start to fall back and then just start to chop. However, if stops go off in this area, then I would definitely be up for continued excursion higher we have an 82, this naked settle from last week and the prior week's high. These could be targets for later in the week, as I said. Like if we're able to get these two areas, and that would be pretty good move from where we ended on Friday. Can this whole situation happen with a pullback? Yeah, it can. But for me, so I have two zones here. Let's put those zones up real quick. So for me, I have this zone in the 80s, and that is about as low as I would want to see price go if before we see any kind of a rally. And I would need to see price pretty quickly reject off of that zone and regain this area right here below century and get into the singles for me to want to be long after a test lower. So I would, as I said, the first scenario I went over is if we kind of held this area. If we push through, I would still be open to the long out of the 80s, but it would have to really impulse and get back above this 90 zone for me to be on board the long. And then I would just, showing this rejection price is lower, I would just be on board to trade the scenario I just mentioned. How can we trade lower? What would be some bullish ideas? Or bearish ideas? Let's adjust the chart quickly. Get a little more of this in here. So bearish ideas, first of all, our whole bearish idea could happen with a quick test higher, just like I was talking about, that gets rejected and does not respect the overnight VPOC and instead just reverts lower and starts putting in lower highs. So seeing just a push through the overnight high relieves pressure and then falls back below the overnight VPOC, I would start thinking about reversion. I would expect this zone to be tested, and I would be looking for this zone to be tested as well. Now, if we get this, could this all of a sudden turn bullish like I just said? Sure. If we get like a pretty strong impulse out of here, of course. This could, but then we'd have to get back above the overnight VPOC and retest this high for the bullishness to confirm. But if we instead just get to this zone and then all of a sudden we just really don't see the bids that we once saw, then I would be open for the overnight low to be tested. And below the overnight low, like any push below this 80 zone that doesn't find buyers, I would be looking for a test of this 57 zone, which is key just around the mid-century and has the naked VPOC from this day right here. I would expect support on the first test of these two zones. I have two pretty thick zones here, this 57 zone and this 43 zone. This is an area where I would expect support to emerge on the first test. I don't know if that would be a bullish trade, but I would expect support. Now, so my key targets on the downside for reversion are going to be these two zones. What happens if we don't see the support and we push through, or we make an attempt to rally and it is refuted? Well, then below this 43 zone, I would be up for a test of my key target today on the downside, which would be this purple, you guessed it, 5821s, the price I've been talking about for quite some time. This would be my key target below these two zones. If we push through, if somehow we still are getting sold and we push through this area, then I would just go zone to zone with this gap zone and prior week's low as the extended target on the downside. Below here, just zone to zone. So that's pretty much what I'm thinking. I'm giving a lot of attention. Let's draw it out here. Giving a lot of attention to this zone right here. And really this zone. Like between here, it's pretty ambiguous. But like I said, if we're holding this area and pushing higher and get through the singles and we can hold the overnight VPOC, then I'm up for higher prices. But if we push through here and we cannot, and we start to hold the overnight VPOC from below, then I'll look for lower prices. What's our nothing scenario? We're kind of looking at it. This, just a trade that ends up staying in this area could be a nothing scenario. As well, if we get some type of a quick repricing, I think if we get a quicker pricing today, it's likely to be higher, but we could get a quicker pricing above the overnight VPOC that just pretty much trades from like a 5,900 bid up to about 5,950-ish to get our targets. This could also be a nothing day where we just show that the buyers are here and they want to buy stuff, but not really push above mid-century. As well, falling back below this 80 zone quickly, this could result in a nothing day that just kind of chops down, closes the gap, and then just chops around this this area of structure that we put in last week. But regardless, so anyway, that's what I'm thinking today. I'm really giving a lot of attention to, like I said, this 80 zone, overnight high, this 25 zone above here. Then I'm looking for these two targets. And below here, I'm looking for these two targets. Below these targets, the magnet zone is the key area to be tested if we fall back into Friday's range. All right, 15 minutes, that's what I got for you today. Hopefully this is clear. Hopefully it gives you an idea of what I'm thinking, and hopefully that's useful to you. Any questions about this, please ask me in the chat room. Always happy to help. And I will be catching up on some DMs that I missed over this long weekend, so I'll be around all day today. But anyway, that's what I got for you. I hope you're having a wonderful morning. I hope your wonderful morning continues. And most importantly, I hope you find some way today to improve your trading that does not depend on your P&L. That's what I got for you. Ciao.